Stay tuned because I'm going to go through one of the key health metrics you need to be tracking if you're serious about peak performance, be it in the gym, out in the road, or in the boardroom. First, let's start with a harsh truth, which is the fact that you are only as strong as your ability to recover. It doesn't matter how hard you train in the gym. If you can't recover effectively, your progress will always be met with a ceiling. Recovery isn't just about feeling rested. It's about allowing your body and your mind to actually adapt so you can perform at your best day after day. And one of the biggest factors behind elite recovery is something called HRV, or heart rate variability. Now, you might have heard the term thrown around before, especially if you track your fitness, you're in the gym community, but most people don't actually understand what HRV is and then how powerful it actually is. Do you need to actually know the ins and outs of HRV? In all probability, probably not. But I am a firm believer in the more you understand, the more you can apply. So there is no harm in actually knowing. Once I understood it, it completely changed the way I approach performance, stress management, and just overall recovery levels. So time to get a little bit sciencey. What exactly is it? HRV measures the variation in time between your heartbeats. Most people assume that your heart beats in perfectly steady rhythm, like a bit of a metronome, but in reality, it's constantly adjusted based on what's happening in your body. That tiny fluctuation in timing is a direct reflection of how well your nervous system is balancing stress and recovery. A high HRV simply means your body is adaptable, well recovered, and primed for performance. On the other side of the coin though, a low HRV, that's usually a sign of stress, fatigue, or in some cases, overtraining. HRV isn't just for athletes. It's just as critical for entrepreneurs, high performers, and anyone who deals with just high levels of mental and physical stress. HRV is controlled by two branches of your autonomic nervous system. You've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight mode. Your heart rate goes up, stress hormones are released, and your body gets primed for action. So think of this back in the day when we were cavemen and cavewomen and we were hunting. This is what your sympathetic nervous system was used for. It was used to release those hormones to get you in the zone so you could go hunt some wild buffalo or fend off a saber-toothed tiger. Nowadays, we don't need that nervous system as often, and that's why being in that more of a stress state all the time is terrible for your health. Then you have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest system. This is when your heart rate is going to go down, your muscles relax, things like your digestion can improve, and your body wants to repair. It just feels more at ease. And this is the state that we want to spend most of our time. But unfortunately, if you are highly stressed, getting into this state is just much more difficult. Unlike some of the other important health markers, such as resting heart rate and blood pressure, we want our HRV score to be as high as possible. Ideally, you want a healthy balance between these two states. But if you find yourself constantly stressed, under-recovered, or overworking yourself, you do get stuck in that fight or flight mode. And then what's going to happen to your HRV? It's going to go down and your body struggles to recover properly. And that is why tracking HRV is one of the clearest indicators of how well you are actually handling stress. A high HRV is associated with better stress management, faster recovery, improved cognitive function, and even better cardiovascular health. While a low HRV can be a sign of poor recovery, fatigue, and long-term health risks like heart disease and high blood pressure, things we don't want any part of. This isn't just about fitness, it's about long-term performance and longevity. HRV is influenced by a lot of different factors, and some are completely in your control. Things like exercise, sleep, nutrition, hydration, and stress management all have a big direct impact on HRV. Regular aerobic training, especially zone 2, tends to increase HRV over time, while poor sleep, dehydration, and chronic stress tend to lower it. But you don't got to be a rocket scientist to know that stuff is not going to help your HRV. Things like breath work, meditation, and cold exposure can improve HRV by strengthening that parasympathetic nervous system. I'm not saying that an ice bath or a cold plunge or a cold shower is going to fix your stress levels and improve your HRV to the point where you're going to be in that ideal score, but it's going to do you no harm. But caveat that by saying do not try and rely on those extra recovery aids to improve your HRV if your sleep is shit. If your sleep is crap, you're not eating the right nutritious foods, and you're not managing your stress, do all the ice baths in the world, it ain't going to help. There are also factors you can't control, such as your age, and genetics. HRV tends to decline naturally as you get older, but the good news, your lifestyle choices have a massive impact on how quickly that decline happens. Things like hormonal balance, electrolyte levels, and even environmental factors like the air quality and pollution can also play a role. And just personally speaking, I think my HRV has taken a bit of a knock since I moved to Barcelona because the air quality ain't that great. So what should your HRV actually look like? The answer isn't actually that simple as looking at a chart and saying, this is the number you should aim for. And that's because HRV is highly individual, meaning what's normal for one person might be completely different for someone else. So instead of comparing your HRV to other people, the best way to approach it is to simply track your own trends over time. If your HRV is gradually improving, that's a sure sign that your recovery and your training are dialed in. If it's trending downward, however, that's an indicator that you might need to adjust your approach and change course. And that brings me to the most important part. If you're not tracking your HRV, you're missing out on one of the most valuable insights into your body's recovery. Like the old saying goes, what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. If you don't have a way to track your HRV, you just don't really have much of an idea of whether your training and your lifestyle are actually benefiting you and your recovery. So you need to track your HRV. And then luckily there are plenty of ways to do so. Devices like a Whoop, Aura, Garmin, Apple Watch, Polar, there's so many of them. They all measure your HRV and give you insights into your recovery. It's just on you to pick one that you enjoy. Personally, I've been using a Whoop since 2018. And yeah, I don't think I could go without it at this stage. Now, I don't rely on it to the point where I wake up and it says recovery 40% and I go, oh crap, I can't work out that day. I just use it as a means of measuring the data that I know needs to be tracked. Because like I spoke about a minute ago, if you see a downward trend in certain metrics, that is your sign that just something ain't right. And it gives you data then to make some changes. So every morning I wake up, I get a new set of metrics to show me how well my body has recovered overnight. If I see a particularly low HRV, I'm able to check things like my sleep, my stress levels, and then my training load to see if there's a pattern. Maybe I didn't sleep too well. Maybe I overdid it in the gym. Or maybe I had a particularly stressful day. That one number, that score every morning just gives me like instant feedback on how well my body is handling everything I'm doing. If I see a consistent trend in the wrong direction, I know I got to make some adjustments, whether that's prioritizing better sleep, managing my stress better, maybe I'll do some breath work, or just pulling back a little bit in training intensity. Maybe my body needs a deload. It could be the difference between running your life at peak performance and constantly running on empty without realizing just why. And if you're tracking it already, just pay close attention to the trends. That's the number one piece of advice I can give you. Your HRV is telling you something, so make sure you are listening. Okay, if that was helpful, please drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already done so already, and let me know in the comments maybe what's your HRV at the moment, or are you actually tracking your HRV? So yeah, thanks once again, and I shall see you in the next one.